the Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Waddle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000. Don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What have I told you? 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought.
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
You are ridiculous.
Let's go.
Let's go.
How about it? What was that, Jake? Man,
My God.
still a
Talk
few
about-
hours removed from that game, and my head is still spinning. I don't even know what to think.
Classic Bears football right there. Kick off the Bears season.
Truly, it
Typical
really.
fashion.
Yeah, I mean, meet the new Bears, same as the old Bears. Never a dull moment. They always do it this way, where they wait till the last waiting moment to finally wake up, and then it's a desperation attempt at the end of the game to either come up just short or win in miraculous fashion. And this time, the coin flipped in our favor. The breaks fell our way, and Matt Stafford gave us a gift of amazing gratitude by just serving one up in the middle of the field, in the middle of
rookie Swift gave us that gift for sure.
That's
Matt
true.
put it on
There
his
was
hands.
a few breaks. There was a few breaks for sure. Those two probably being the biggest, but
that was huge.
Man, what a game, Jake! First game out the gates, week 1, NFL season 2020. We've been
Hey,
waiting
you know
so
what?
long.
For the first time in 7 years, the Bears are undefeated. They're 1-0 for the first time in 7 seasons. How that feels good.
18 more to go, baby.
I'll take it. However you can get it, I'll take it. No
18
problem.
more to go. Let's go. Hey, and they're all going to be just like that. You know that as a Bears fan. I don't care how good your team is. In Chicago, there's never a dull moment. You know, Kevin Caduck from the Midday Minute was nice enough to allow us here at Brags in the Stands to submit our picks each week into his newsletter, and I predicted in his newsletter this Sunday morning to have the Bears win 24-21, and I put, it's never a dull moment because Bears. And that is what it was. That's exactly what today was. They didn't win on a game-winning field goal. They won on game-winning touchdown passes by Mitchell Trubisky, which I would much rather take.
Yeah, I'll take
even though I probably lost 5 years from my life from that dramatic comeback. But you just know this is how the Bears always have been. I mean, I've been watching this team I'm 34 years old, the better part of 25 years. Consistently watching this team every Sunday, and this is who they have always been. It's like just same old, wait till the very end, and then they wake up and you're like, where was this team the whole time? And you hear after the game all these different explanations as to why. And it's hard, as a Bears fan, everybody is comparing us to the Kansas City Chiefs because of what we could have had. And you see the way they operate on Thursday night against the Texans like a well-oiled machine.
Oh, yeah.
And the Bears, they can't even get a first down. This is like back in 2003 when they brought in Rex Grossman and he got one first down against the Falcons, and Bears fans rejoiced as if they had never seen a forward pass before. And we always get to that point as Bears fans when we watch a game. It gets so bad that you're like, any little thing, you're like, wow, we did it, and you feel so accomplished. And then the first time they scored, my wife was like, you're not excited. I was like, because the game is still over. You can't even get even excited when they do something right, because it's like the game's already at hand. But wait, the Lions did what they are historically known for a few things, and that's shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and look, there was a couple stupid moments in the game. I mean, most notably, Jamin Collins deciding that he's going to show a referee that Montgomery's putting his head down by headbutting the ref, which is brilliant, of course. And in that regard, he gets ejected from the game. Not only that, Marcus Trufant gets injured. They have a few injuries across the board. Jeff Okudah is out for the game. They're starting tackles out of the game. So that wasn't a full Lions squad we were seeing, and it was a pretty depleted defense. But I'll take it. A win's a win. 1-0.
Win is a win.
That's how we do it.
Yeah, well, the Bears are always going to have those never a dull moment. And full disclosure, I haven't seen very much from the rest of the NFL between being locked into the Bears game and then getting ready for this show. Yeah. But I'm assuming we're seeing a lot of sloppy football across the board, being that it is the first week. And when you start saying those things, you start creeping into the conversation. Are you making excuses for Mitch? No, it's just factual. You saw, some of those timing things off. Jimmy Graham mistiming on his jumps, just being off on plays here or there. And you were wondering how many more opportunities the Lions were going to give the Bears. And eventually they woke up and started, stringing together a few throws. Shouldn't be out of the realm of question for the Bears to be able to string together a few first downs. They did that. They got in the end zone. And then, the Matt Stafford play, throwing into triple coverage in the middle of the field. He had a great game prior to that moment, but that has always been his bugaboo. How many times has Matt Stafford done that in his career? What is this, his 17th year in the league? And he's still making those Cutler-esque moments where you're just like, what is he doing?
He's got the arm. He trusts his talent. And, a lot of times he comes out on top there, but not today.
So I have to explain something to you before we go too far into the show, because I don't want to be too distracted. But I have a mortal enemy on Twitter, and his name is Little Kevin Big D. Now, he is a welcomed mortal enemy, but I have to warn you, Jake, because you may not be used to his troll techniques, but he is a troll connoisseur on Twitter, and he's one of those guys that likes to keep me honest. So I don't want you to feel, uncomfortable if you see him going off in the chat, but also don't give him a spotlight, because it only encourages him more. You can give him a little spotlight here. Like, we'll put this one up for Kevin.
You give him one.
We'll put this one up for Kevin. Here's little Kevin Big D. If anyone
he's got Mitch in his picture right there.
Like I said, his
troll
technique is quality, A+ quality. So he went and took a picture with him last year when Mitch came to Wrigleyville, full and well knowing he trashes the guy all the time, and then stood there next to him like that. It's ridiculous. But
Hey.
You know, that's okay. I like his techniques, but he's an interesting one. He actually left Twitter for a little bit when Mitch won the job, and now he's back. He actually reverse jinxed it because he came on into my Twitter mentions, of course, right in the second quarter when Mitch was doing terrible. Ha ha, I told you so. Greg, you're telling me. I told him he was a coward because he had disappeared for so long, and yet Mitch comes back and wins the game, and here he is in our show's chat. So we appreciate the support.
We appreciate it.
And coming in. You all are welcome. Maybe one day you'll have to come on to Brags in the Stands and we'll have it out. You know I love you, little Kevin Big D. But today is a joyous day. The Chicago Bears, as you read on the top of our screen, a beautiful graphic made by our amazing co-host and producer, Jake. Bears win 27-23, fourth quarter heroics to tame those Lions. Sorry, Adam Gray, our former guest here on Friday and great friend of ours. You once again got lioned, and we all know he doesn't wear the garbage bag on his head, but I'm sure he felt like it at the end of that game. You know, Lions fans are always getting
that's a heartbreaker. I mean, we've been on the other end of that a few times,
especially like you said, the dropped touchdown by Swift. And you knew when the Bears scored and left 2 minutes left to play. I said it to my friend Kyle, was sitting at his house watching the game. He has a nice setup with nice sound system. And I told him, I go, man, they gave him too much time, and this is just so Bears. It's never over. I said at that moment the score could have changed 2 more times at that point. That's how ridiculous the Bears games are. You'll watch a Bears game and nothing will happen for 57 minutes, and then in the last 3 minutes, all hell breaks loose. It's always been that way as a Chicago Bears fan. And, hey, it is what it is. This is what we got. Mitchell is our quarterback. Yes, Chris Gonzalez. He has made it to week 2. I think everyone was ready to write Mitchell off, and let's see the Nick Foles experiment about halfway through that third quarter, especially when he scrambled out of the pocket. First, he underthrew Allen Robinson down the sideline, which was, to me, the disappointing play that led to the next play, which was his scrambling out and being a forced fumble and losing about 20 yards when they were in score. Right there. And it was a terrible decision compiled right after a bad throw. The throw was the one that upset me more because he had Allen Robinson down the sideline and he underthrew the ball. And those are the kind of things where fans get the frustration. Then you see the fourth quarter, Mitch, and you're like, where is this guy all game?
And the tale of two Mitches, classic.
It really is, and it just begs the question, how can Matt Nagy unlock that in the first half when they remember when Lovie Smith used to say, we're going to get off the bus running? You know, they got off the bus running the football today. But even with that, they weren't able to execute enough first downs, and they made critical mistakes at critical points in those drives in the first half that stalled those drives. And you're just pulling your hair out trying to decide what is the problem. You when you say those things, you immediately become a Mitch apologist, which is ridiculous when you sit there and watch a tight end drop a touchdown, and then on the next play, it's a bad throw to Cole Kmet. And now we're arguing on Twitter about how that throw should have been. We all become Monday morning quarterbacks. Some of us have
played that a little bit, with Barely
and that's fine. We're all fans, and we're all trying to figure this out. And I like that we're having this discussion, and I think it's nice to have some people like Adam Hogue and Barlissimo were saying, Cole Kmet actually didn't drop in the zone correctly the way he fell back towards the end zone. I'm just a fan. I don't know the nuance that tightly, so I find it interesting, and it's so easy as a fan to watch an incomplete pass and go, that's on the quarterback.
Yeah,
but not always that simple.
I agree, and we were having a little back and forth because I just said, hey, that's a bad throw.
Sure.
Yeah, we were talking. I mean, if you're making that decision, there was nothing stopping Mitch from hitting him in the numbers at that point. He led him on the other side where he was defended. This is my impression of it, and I know nothing. But, that was my interpretation of why not. It seemed at that point the play was kind of breaking down a little bit. So I thought maybe he could have kind of hit him in the numbers or something. But, hey, you take it. It is.
But that's what we're doing as Bears fans. It's throw to throw. You're not even waiting for the whole game to see the full picture. We are making our decisions each throw at a time. Even myself, as someone that has always supported Mitch, want him to keep the job, hold the job, whatever. But you have to be fair to it at some point. And when he misses a tight end, the tight end we just got, the third string, his name is eluding me now. He missed him wide open in the end zone.
Demetrius Harris.
Demetrius Harris, thank you. That's the big boy throw you can't miss.
Yeah, that's a bad
at the end of the day, your opportunities only come so much. And if you miss them, when you have someone like this, isn't Chase Daniels behind him anymore. You have a guy behind him that if it's going to keep looking like it, because to me, this whole Lions game was exactly what the Lions game was last season. We want to see improvement. Now, Mitch did improve as far as some of the things he did today. The run game did improve, but overall, the ugliness, the mistakes, and everything else, it just looked and tasted the exact same as the 2019 Bears. They're lucky to be out and come out of there 1-0, and we'll take it. But next week, they got to look way different. This isn't over. He made it out. Mitch is our quarterback, yes, because he won this game, and now he gets to play next week. He's earned that right. And it's almost like the Glennon thing. Back in the day when we had him as a starter, I was worried every game he won, I felt like would extend how long he started because you don't bench a guy if he's over 500 or at 500. I think it's like gets to a point once it gets off the tracks is when you bench a guy. So now did this win extend Mitch into week 3? Because I had him at a 2-week prove it deal. Well, he just won week 1, so maybe this now extends him to week 3 because if he were theoretically to lose next week, you could say, well, they're 1-1. But it's to me, if he looks the way he looked for 3.5 quarters like he did this week, his time is really running out. So he's got to hope that he can have a much better outing, and that's pretty wild to say when you consider the end of the game stat line for Mitch, which was exactly what Tom Waddle said on these airwaves on Brags in the Stands Friday night. He said that Mitch Trubisky was going to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he did exactly that. So shout out to you, Tommy Waddle. You always hit the nail on the head, and he's somebody that's a big critic of Mitch's. I saw him at halftime say his mechanics were awful in the first half, and they needed to be better in the second half. I'm assuming they had to have been because they won. But there were throws he completed that I could have sat there and said, if I'm being fair to the evaluation, they were thrown behind him. One throw to Anthony Miller was for a first down, but it was also thrown behind him, or else it could have been for more yards. I mean, that's how fine of a tooth comb we are doing with the quarterback evaluation as Bears fans across Twitter. We're all the Monday morning quarterbacks.
That's fair. I mean, there was moments when, at the beginning of the game, he seemed to be going through his progressions. He was hitting multiple receivers. And then later, as we got in, he seemed like maybe he was getting a little deer in the headlights. He was really sticking to Allen Robinson for a good 2 quarters. The second quarter, he was really locked in on Allen. Early third quarter, he made those throws that you hate to see him do behind the line of scrimmage. He had that one toss to Tariq that if Tariq isn't a freak athlete, catches that one-handed and it goes nowhere, regardless, that's a dead play. So he still has these tendencies to just not be able to put together a full game. And
I agree with Brian Tonsoni, our good buddy from Assembly Call, a great podcast for you IU basketball listeners. Brian says, Nagy needs to call a better game. I agree. The first half was so frustrating at times. You watching the very first drive out the gates. They run the ball with authority on first and second down. Third down, they quarterback sneak it. Jake texted me, he hated the play call. I saw it. It was a
long 1 yard, and you're letting Mitch sneak it. I hate that.
On TV, it was so weird with the first down line on TV. I felt like I couldn't see it at times.
They weren't showing it.
And on that first down, when on that QB sneak, I'm like, it looked like he had gotten it. I didn't understand what was going on there. Then they don't get it, and I'm sitting there. In my mind, I play Madden all the time. I'm like, just go for it. The way they ran the ball on first and second down, like, come on, get a winning mentality. But they don't. They punt it because, of course, you don't go for it there on 4th down on that side of the field that early in the game. But then on the next drive, it's 4th and 7, and they go for it. And he throws it behind Ted Ginn, and he looks terrible doing it.
Bad throw, yeah.
Correct. And on the play prior to that was the Jimmy Graham drop because they had strung together a few nice plays to get to that point. And that was when Jimmy Graham mistimed his jump and looked like he could have gained about 25 yards. And you try to take all this into consideration. And it's funny, you talk about it on Twitter and just see the way the needle moves with Mitch. And you're trying to be fair to who's doing what wrong and right. And it was at one point he was getting ready to get out of there. I even put up a poll because I thought it was interesting to put up some poll questions on the Allen Robinson throw. Was that a bad throw or was that just a drop? Because It was a dangerous throw, but it hit Allen right in the numbers. And when Patrick Mahomes makes those type of throws, and I know you laugh if someone dares say these same names in the same breath, but if he makes the same throw, obviously it is admired and shown on ESPN a million times for Mitch. Slow down, buddy. I can't do you better not be making throws like that. So it's so hard. So I was putting up all these polls to see what people thought on each side of the aisle. It was interesting to see the feedback, and I'm telling you, the needle on Mitch was moving so hard the whole game, and he was about done, and people were ready to have Foles come in this game, and then all of a sudden Mitch awakens and scores 3 touchdowns, and then I put a poll at the end of the game that said, all right, do you believe that right before they scored the game-winning touchdown, or no, right before the Lions, whether or not they were or not going to score a game-winning touchdown? I put, no matter what happens here, is Mitch the starter next week? And predominantly 80% of people said yes. And if you would have taken that same poll in the third quarter, it would have been the complete opposite way. So it is crazy to watch the needle move with this guy.
I think even if Swift drops that touchdown, I think people are still having this conversation. I'm sorry, catches the touchdown. If the Bears lose this game, I still think, and there might still be, I'm sure there's still ramblings about it, but I think if the Bears lose, people are still talking about, is Mitch starting next week, regardless of everything that had happened, because it was too much inconsistent, and then turned it out. And that's where it becomes
such a convoluted conversation. They're lucky they won. Winning is the cure-all, because when you lose, then I call Waddle and Sylvie and say, well, Mitch brought him back, and he had the 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and then the defense gave it up because the defense playing softball game, and I'm just a Mitch.
You don't have to do that.
That's exactly what happens. And then everyone says, dude, you're just an apologist for Mitch. How could you say? And it's like, nuance and context is everything. But if you say those things and you just don't go for the baseline, easy layup, Mitch sucks line, it's where we've gotten as a fan base. And that's fine. I get it. You know, the Mitch circus is exhausting because it's such a conundrum of what we had to deal with Jay Cutler. And I get that. But it is what we've got. And I personally want to see these guys try to see this through or get them all out of here at the end of the year.
Well, that's whether you want it or not, that's what this year pretty much is. I mean, if this doesn't pan out,
well, because
you're definitely going to have another quarterback
in the third quarter where it looked like it was abundantly clear. I was texting with Shane over there at Tape Never Lies Network. I'm like, he's done. I mean, we were literally saying that to each other. And I was like, well, I haven't given up quite yet, but it looks to be true. I mean, you got to face reality at some point. And the idea was at that point, I'm like, well, if Foles gets in here, at least we'll then figure out what the heck Matt Nagy is, because I'm still seeing a lot of play calls that I'm like, what are we doing here? They finally get the run established today. And then at one point he ran a jet sweep with Allen Robinson. I'm no football expert. I've never played it down in my life, but neither has Bill Belichick. All I know is, why are we running jet sweeps? Yes, I am as smart as Bill Belichick. That's what I'm trying to insinuate. Nice. No, what I'm trying to say is you don't have to never play football to not understand that the jet sweep east-west is not as effective as the north-south running that was getting you 5 yards a clip that they ran at all day. We haven't seen that in 2 years since Jordan Howard. And there's just times where he gets away from it. Proud of that Matt Nagy. When they went down 3-score, he stayed to the run. Yeah. And that might have won him the ball game. So
I did make note of that. I was proud of him. I was afraid that he was going to do his classic.
Sticking to his conviction. The one thing they were doing right, he must have said it to himself, or somebody on that sideline must have got to him and said, we're running the ball every time here. And they did it until, I think, 1 yard with one run that got him 2 yards, and then they switched it up after that. But
at that point, it was what was working for him. I mean, it worked for him pretty much all game. They were controlling the line of scrimmage pretty well. But yeah, Mitch, at that point in time, when they were decided to stick to the run, Mitch didn't look like he had that confidence to just go out there and start slinging. So once they actually settled down and got that touchdown, things kind of turned around for him.
Absolutely, and that's who he is. I always laugh when people say
that's unfortunate, but
he always wakes up at the end like that. So it wasn't a surprise to me. And before we move on to our next segment and we bring on our guest for for the night. We're always gonna, for our post game shows, gonna try to bring on somebody that'll come on and chop it up with us and react to this game, whether it's a podcaster or a media person or even a fan. That's who we are here at Brags in the Stands, and you may get that call one day. You never know. But today we're going to bring on our buddy Samir from Bears Bonanza. But before we do that, and I send over the link to him so we can bring him into the conversation and break down some of this Matt Nagy press conference and the Mitchell Trubisky press conference, we have some good clips for you guys, so stay tuned. I do want to know what you thought, Jake, because that last throw, I'm no hype here this year. And when he threw it, I did go, I did lose my shit for a second. No pun intended.
Of course you did.
I did. It was so exciting. But at the same time, he's got to get this done. It's the Lions. So I was more relieved than anything. But how about that throw to Anthony Miller? Unreal. Onions, dropped it in the bucket. And the exact same throw that Anthony Miller and Mitch connected on last year in Detroit.
Right.
I found that to be fascinating. It seems like Mitch has gotten very comfortable with Anthony Miller, especially on that particular route.
That was a hell of a throw. And I mean, at that, I don't usually fanboy or anything like that. And you saw me put that tweet out, that was a dime ball for sure. And I was proud of him for hitting that throw. I mean, I was really hard on Mitch today. Internally, I didn't really tweet it out or say too much about it. But man, when he hit that throw, I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, he has that potential, and it's just like, why can't I see that for at least 3 quarters? Like, come on.
And that's, to me, as much on Mitch as it is on also Matt Nagy to get these guys off the bus playing football the same way Lovie Smith used to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to say I thought Nagy called a pretty good game. I thought he handled it pretty well. The run game was going well. He had 2 big moments that I was really irritated with. One of them was on that first drive, the quarterback sneak. The second one, which was huge, was the decision when you have the ball with 2 minutes left. Detroit has 3 timeouts. This is right before the half. Detroit has the ball to start the third quarter. You throw the ball 3 times, and you go 3 and out, and you give it back to back to Detroit, and they score a touchdown. That was terrible management. You were way in your own territory. You didn't run the ball 1 time to make them burn any sort of timeouts, and that was a brutal decision. One that absolutely should have cost them this game, because they come out and go back-to-back 14 points, and This is a total different ball game.
You add that, and then also you add that, and you also add in the field goal he chose not to take on the second drive of the game, going for it on 4-7. I don't know Cairo Santos' range, but
yeah, that was I think that was about a 51
field goal when
51,
Mitch hit
52-yard field goal.
Yeah, Mitch and the Bears were down a field goal when he hit that past Anthony Miller, and somebody had tweeted me, "Hey, we could sure use that field goal right now," and you forget about those little things as the game goes along. So, I'm still wondering what Nagy's thought process is on these 4th and longs and just saying, screw it. I do it on Madden all the time, but then when I don't get the completion, what I do is I go and restart the game, and then I play it again. So Matt can't do that, so I don't know why he's going for it.
I love how outward you're just saying, hey, this is what I do on Madden, this is what I'm thinking.
That is absolutely, I have no patience, and I just want to sling it, and sometimes the computer has its day, and when I can't get it going, I just restart the game until my momentum shifts, and then I play good football, and then I, trick myself into believing the Bears are a good team because I can dominate on Madden. So with that being said, thank you. With that being said, we're going to bring on our expert analysis for the night, my good buddy, my analytical buddy, Tui's Core. Why don't we bring him in, Jake, from the stream, or I can. We both can.
You just took him out. I got him.
No, I see. We both got the itchy trigger finger. My guy, Samir.
What's up, man?
Bears Bonanza, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Samir? You're probably, 10 years, lost off your life after that one. But love to hear your reaction. Me and Jake have done all the talking here to start the show. I want to hear your reaction to the game.
Yeah, I got my pen in my hand, trying to take notes, putting all the numbers together, trying to figure out how this game mathematically made sense, and I just can't do it. It's really a game that, to me, as a lifelong Bears fan, it's one of the games that we're going to talk about 5-6 years from now. I think it's such a different feeling from the first three quarters where it's doom and gloom and misery, and you hear all these Detroit punks on Twitter talking their game, and then in the fourth quarter, the second half of the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, our quarterback looks like Patrick Mahomes meets John Elway, and our receivers start playing like Odell Beckham Jr. and DeAndre Hopkins had a love child. And then all of a sudden, we're there. I mean, I want to bring some analytical facts here, but it's one of these games where I'm just still puzzled an hour and a half later. And I wasn't even drinking that much, Greg. I wasn't even drinking that much. I
was going to say, you scared me when you said, when I texted you and gave you the official start time that we were 30 minutes late on. And I go, all right, we're starting time. You go like, all right, I'll quit drinking at 3. And if I had a picture right now of Samir and I drinking at the Bears game last year, you would understand why that had me very concerned. But you're locked in right now. You're looking very dapper with your jacket and everything. And I'm excited. This is going to be a good breakdown.
This is an obtuse sweater jacket. It's very nice. But this is a Bears training camp jersey.
Very nice.
My 21-year-old Bears hat that I always wear.
I have the same hat that I bought in 2005, and it is absolutely tattered.
Well, I'll tell you this
I still wear it though.
And I'm always so rude. I did the same thing to Waddle Samir. This is my co-host and great friend and producer, Jay Kovanik. You'll know him as Crux Biscuit on Twitter, and that has nothing to do with our guy Biscuit, Mitchell Trubisky.
Everything to do with Frank Zappa. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's right. You guys would get along splendidly, and I'm sure you'll find that out here over the next 30, 45, however long it takes us to get through this and talk some Bears. And I can go all night because that was a hell of a start to the season. Much needed. It was the first, Samir, it was the first day of normalcy I've felt since March 12th when this entire pandemic and everything hit and they started canceling sports. NBA and MLB being back has been nice. And I've taken it for what it is, but watching the NBA playoffs has been like summer league playoffs, and watching the MLB, while I'll take the Cubs in a pennant race all day, seeing no fans in the stands is depressing. Football on TV, it just seems so normal. You don't really see the pan out to the crowd as much. It just looks exactly how it did last year on TV. And for the first day in a long time, it felt like a normal day. And I'll take a few more of those, even if it means stressing out about my team winning games. I mean, that was exactly everything Bears fans have ever had our whole lives, and I'll take it all day, every day.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny you say that because they weren't pumping any crowd noise, but it existed in my brain. I heard the crowd noise, even though it wasn't there at all, just because it did feel so normal, and my mind made up for the rest of the reality that was missing. Sure. And it was great. It was great. I loved it. Loved every second of it.
That's right. So, Samir, I know you're a big Mitchell Trubisky critic. You are certainly no truther. But as you said, halfway through the third quarter, not looking good. But I have to know, after you saw what you saw in the fourth quarter, do you have any hope that he's going to take that and take that next step that a truther might suggest he is capable of doing? Or is this just another blip that we constantly see, and next week for the first 3.5 quarters, we are going to see the exact same thing we saw against the Lions today? Okay, so 2 things here. So you have to give me a little runway. I think with Mitch, we're in the Bortles zone. And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I referred to this a lot. The Bortles zone is basically 2017 Blake Bortles. The second half of the season, he's great. He's legit great. Not Bortles great. He's great in the second half of 2017. What happens? They give him an extension. They do not draft Deshaun Watson. They do not draft Patrick Mahomes, and you see how that turned out. Now, for me, we are in the Bortles zone. The second part here is whenever I'm debating with anyone about any topic, I always ask 2 questions. Number 1, how did this person get to the opinion that they have? And number 2, what would it take for them to change the opinion? For me, the answer to that second, to me, I have to see that we're out of the Bortles zone, where he's not just good. He has to be really, really good. And it's probably unfair. Listen, if it was Foles and he gave you a similar game,
I would feel, hey, look, Foles, I would feel different emotionally. Say, Foles was warming up, shaking the rust off, and look at what happened. But even with Mitch, same throws, same everything, I still don't feel great. And I don't feel great for two principal reasons. In the fourth quarter, the Lions went to they went back to their vanilla cover 3, undisguised coverage. In the first 3 quarters, they were not doing that. They were mixing it up with some zone blitzes on the weak side, which they normally never do, and you saw the results. Also, they were missing Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, and there's one other guy who I can't read my handwriting because I was drinking too much. So I don't feel that different so far, and that's unfair. I will fully admit it's unfair, because if Foles gave you the same game, I would feel a lot better. And I know that doesn't make a lot of rational sense, because I'm not trying to make a rational argument here. I'm making a emotional argument that it feels like I've been here before with Trubisky, and it feels that when he's up against an undisguised cover 3 with bad talent on the other side, that he gets it done. All that being said, he had to be perfect in the second half of the fourth quarter, and God, was he perfect. I mean, he was incredible in the second half.
What do you make of the fourth quarter? And you brought up how the Lions changed some coverages, so I'd love Jake to maybe cue that up, but I'd love to hear your thoughts quickly on, I know you're very critical of how he looked in the first half. What do you make of someone like me that sits there and looks at the Allen Robinson drop or the Jimmy Graham 2 drops, one skirting down the sidelines that could have been for 25 yards, and then another huge one that's an end zone drop, that's a touchdown, and then on the next play, he makes a bad throw to Cole Kmet, and we're all pulling our hair out again. What element of, how do you fairly judge someone when, as inconsistent as he is, the people around him are showing the same inconsistencies?
So the first Jimmy Graham drop, listen, it's a complicated thing, right? Because to me, he
jumped too early. If he doesn't jump at all, he catches it in stride and goes for 30 yards. He didn't need to jump.
But there's two things, though. So it's a good throw, bad decision, and bad receiver play, right? I mean, you cannot throw into triple coverage, which is what he did there. The
Allen Robinson throw, you're saying?
Well, no,
Jimmy Graham.
The first Jimmy Graham throw, he throws it. There's a guy underneath, and there's a guy over the top, and there's another guy right behind him. So,
okay.
but it's a perfect throw, and Jimmy Graham should have caught that pass. So if you're going to make a mistake, this is what Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson do. They do this all the time. They make a terrible decision, but they back it up with a perfect throw. And that's what I mean by that was like the most Patrick Mahomes throw I've seen Mitch make in a long time, where it's a crazy, from a degree of difficulty throw, that is a hard throw that he had to make to Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham just messed it up, So it's, to me,
the Allen Robinson throw was the same way on 3rd and long. He hits it over the middle, over 3 guys. And if you in our days of watching a guy like Rex or someone like that throwing that ball, you're like, please don't, because you just know it's trouble and it can get tipped up in the air. And you saw a throw by Mitch get tipped up in the air and it was dropped. And then Stafford had that exact same mistake go the other way. And it is a game of inches in that way. But that's what's funny to me is narratives are written on those inches. And when Allen drops it or Jimmy drops it, but Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill catches it and runs for 6, it changes the narrative. And for me, it always, every time I watch, in the last 2 years, since this has all started to get, crazy, since the day they played that playoff game and Trey Burton got hurt, and it seems like our offense has never quite been the same because to me, the Packers, when they won the division 2 years ago, was the last time it was like, all right, we're cooking. And ever since then, we've lost our way. And it's like Murphy's Law. Every person continues to take a turn making a mistake. And I was like, so today they solved the run game, and that's where I think we can take the positive. But it's like, I always just harken back to all the little things that lead to these moments. And then it becomes, oh, well, you're making excuses for the guy. I don't know. I'm just trying to look at the big picture. I felt like more Bears fans were doing that today because we have been so hard on Mitch that it almost, it almost forces you to be just as hard on everyone else. And I think the coaching staff is doing the same thing. And that only raises expectation level.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say earlier, but prior to the fourth quarter, was I was noticing that, hey, your O-line's playing well. Your running game is working pretty well. Your tight ends they're better. I mean, they were open. There was that one long play to Allen Robinson that he had Jimmy Graham wide open. He didn't see it. So you have all these elements that are playing better. Nagy's calling a pretty good game, and Mitch still isn't performing. I mean, this is a big thing in the offseason where you and I had conversations, Greg, and you'd say, well, last year the O-line was bad. We had no tight ends. We had no running game. We had none of these things. Nagy, was hit or miss from week to week. And I thought we had all those things putting themselves together pretty well today prior to Mitch showing up and actually delivering at the end. Sure. And I almost tweeted out, okay, you have all these things working. Mitch is not operating the way he needs to. At what point,
that was what was so maddening about it, because they were showing signs. And then they get down to the end zone and Jimmy Graham drops a touchdown and they were settling for field goals yet again. And so they both take turns. Jimmy drops a touchdown. Then the next play, Mitch scrambles and maybe makes too quick of a decision to Cole instead of, seeing what he needs to do. And that's where I'm sitting there like, you could see the light. Well, then the Bears end up with 27 points by the end of the night or the end of the day. But, it never comes easy with the Chicago Bears, and it always takes a whole half to get going. It drives you insane as a Bears fan.
But I want to come back to what you just said. And I completely agree with you, where I'm following along on Twitter like all the, Twitter crack addicts. I'm not commenting too much, but
no, I'm one of them.
What more did you want the Bears offense to do? The offensive line blocked well. They pass protected well. They ran well. Yeah, Greg, you're right. The receivers dropped a few passes, but if we're going to use, if I'm watching the Thursday night game, what happens on that the second Kansas City drive? Mahomes is a perfect strike for a touchdown, goes right off the guy's head. Second comes right back, boom, to Kelsey, touchdown, right?
Right.
Those are the things that you need to see. And I think the Bears receivers on net tonight made more big plays. How about Anthony Miller? Wow.
Absolutely.
Great start.
Or Mooney.
Backing up that talk about how good he looked at camp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mooney, by the way, I just want to shout out Mooney because I don't want this to get lost in the shuffle here. This is a 5th round rookie.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing wide receiver 2 and 3 snaps right now. I mean, that is really uncommon. I did a quick check on Pro Football Reference. He's in the top 6% in terms of snaps on first games after receivers being drafted in the 5th round. How's that for a stat?
That's a hell of a stat.
So it's really, really, this is over the last 100 years in the NFL, right? So it's really, really uncommon that a guy who's drafted at that spot even gets the snaps. Forget he made some big catches in that game as well. I mean, he was wide open, and he's just getting space because of his athleticism. So I don't want that to get lost in the Mitch offense discussion, right? Because I think our playmakers did a good job on that.
I agree.
Bother you,
and that was one of my concerns too when I was watching, and I was saying it looked like early in the game we were trying to hit. Mitch was checking out to some of these other targets, not just being locked in on Allen Robinson. And then once things started to fall apart a little bit, he was going to his safety blanket all the time. And then he kind of started to go through his progressions a little bit better as the game went on and started hitting more of those guys. And that's key to really going to be able to move the football, and success for the Bears is you got to get everybody involved. They started to do it in the fourth quarter, but that's what you want to see.
It was great to see Tariq Cohen going north-south. They got hit power run game. That's you heard Charles Leno mention this in interviews in the offseason. You heard Kyle Long talk about this on ESPN 1000 when he hosted with David Kaplan a few times, that these guys wanted to get a little tougher in the trenches. And I just think Nagy finally found that groove. You saw it with Tariq Cohen getting up the middle, but Cordero Patterson running hard. What was that, a 4th down play where he ran around the edge? That was the one call that had me a little nervous. Everything else was right up the gut. That's where I want to see it. That's why that jet sweep had me so frustrated. Stop
That
with
was
the
a
jet.
bad
Enough with the jet sweeps.
That was
And
a bad
don't
play.
do them with Allen Robinson to the weak side of the field.
I didn't like that call, especially in that moment. I was not a big fan of
He
that.
says he gets in the zone and then he does that kind of stuff. And then Mitch is like, oh, here, let me do my bad throw turn, and they all take turns doing something stupid.
Yeah,
But
it
they
was
finally-
awesome to see. It was awesome to see all everybody getting involved in the run game. Part of me is just like, what would David Montgomery look like if he had all those touches today? Because he was breaking tackles and he was always getting
hard
extra
run.
yards. And I want him to
like
be
the
able to
balance.
get loose.
I
But
like the balance. It's tough. I can see it both ways because I thought the balance was good. Cordero had some really nice runs in that first.
yeah,
round.
I'm not hating on any of it. I don't know that this is going to happen for David, that he's going to get just bell cow status,
Right, 1,400
but
yards.
I would love to see what he could do with 15 carries a game or something. Let him get hot.
How about before we? I'm sorry, Samir. I just want to get this on the tracks a little bit because you know what? We have a ton of great clips from Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky's press conference that'll dig us into this conversation a little more. Intricate into it or whatever word I'm looking for. But I do want to know, because we've talked about pretty much nothing but the offense. What were your thoughts with the defense? Because at one point it was almost like you could chalk it up to demoralization of the fact that it's this new Bears meet the same old Bears with the offense. And that's how it felt the way they came out in the second half, completely deflated. But then that's excuse making for the defense, right? Just as much as you're making excuses for the offense. If you're chalking up, letting Adrian Peterson run loose on you for the 9,000th time, the guy is 55 years old. And he's still killing us. He's still killing us.
Kill me now.
I'll never forget the game where him and Devin Hester squared off in Adrian Peterson's rookie year. That was 25 years ago. He's still killing us, and he looks exactly the same as the day they drafted him when he was on the Minnesota Vikings. And there he is, killing us.
35 years old. How is this possible?
What is your thoughts, Samir, what was your thoughts with the defense overall for the day? What grade would you give them? I know my good friend Tommy Ponziano wanted to know our grades. What kind of grade would you give the defense for today?
So it's going to be surprising because they gave up 23 points. I'm going to give them a B+, and I'll tell you what. There's two problems with the defense. The pass rush is much more. If you look, there's a lot of big data around this. Pass rush is much more of a circumstance of where you are on the scoreboard. So if you're up, so basically good offenses all have good pass rushes because teams have to, sit back in the pocket and throw. That didn't happen for us. We got down early and we couldn't get after the quarterback. Second thing, AP, we had to respect the run, so we couldn't pincer back in. So I'm not going to kill him on that. The two problems I said B+. I meant C+. Excuse me. The two problems, and I think this is something that everybody's going to have to watch going forward, is Jalen Johnson and Roquan Smith. Jalen Johnson, he got run over there a little bit, but then as the game went along, you saw him get better and better as the game went along. He made some great plays down the stretch there that were amazing. The game in the first half seemed a little too big for him, but then something clicked, and he was there. The other guy that people need to pay attention to is Roquan Smith. I don't know what's up with Roquan Smith, but he looked awful today. When we talk about getting rolled over by Adrian Peterson, he was the guy who was getting rolled over.
We all know what's up with Roquan. We all know what's up with Roquan. He's having a lot of fun. He hit the gap. I'm no expert here, but there was a few times where he hit the gap on the run. I'd have to go back and really look at the tape. I'm so locked into the offense. It's like a stress reliever when the defense is on the field. I can breathe for a second.
Yeah, I think Roquan first Lions drive of the game had a huge tackle at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
he did. Big play. Outside of that, I mean, he got trucked.
I always admire when, a fan, you guys can pinpoint certain things. I mean, obviously guys stand out, but there's so much going on. Look at my great
I have 3 pages of this. That's why I even remember that.
I should have put in the hopper. We sent each other pictures of our notes we took for the game.
Oh,
and his looked like that, like a lawyer's notes, and mine looked like Addison took them. And
he had 4 lines. He gave up. He gave up about 5 minutes into the game.
Well, how
I
about
think.
we move on and start getting into some of these
those
clips?
notes look like the Zodiac killer's writing.
I know, right? Look at this handwriting. It's
They are
weird.
They look like Matt Nagy's playbook. So let's get into the clips. We took some nice time. That's why we took a little time after the game to get some of these press conference clips and get into the reaction to them because I thought there were some interesting things said. So I'll kind of let Jake lead it off. You've got it at your disposal. Where do you want to go with this? Because
let's just kick it off. I actually haven't heard any of this, so let's hear what he had to say about Club Dub and if what they did today.
Is there a version of Club Dub open, and what did you say to the guys when you got in there?
Yeah, no, right away, Dan. When I got in there, it was going strong. I mean, the guys were ready for it. We've been talking about it. They're excited to be able to enjoy a victory. To start out for us, our first time, and it sounds like 7 years that we started off 1-0. I'm just so happy for them. Our coaches were excited in there. They were well experienced in that Club Dub there. That atmosphere was fun. It went on, and then at the end, we just like always, we were able to get a nice little breakdown, a couple booms in there, and then break it down and get ready to enjoy tonight, but then focus on the Giants for next week. But it was great.
Yeah, that's great. It's got to celebrate that. When I did see a video when the Bears coming back into the tunnel, and they were absolutely celebrating. Like everyone was pumping up Jalen Johnson. Tariq was there, Miller was there. Everyone was getting hyped. So that was cool to see. You want these guys to celebrate any win, and like you were saying. At times it did seem like that defense was pretty demoralized, and to come out, pull out this win like this, I mean, that's only huge for everything going forward.
You're 100% right. They were hyped in the hallway tunnel. You saw that from the Bears social media on Instagram, and you can go back and see those right now, how hyped they were. Jalen Johnson, really, really hyped. And I love that kid Swagger. You guys brought him up earlier. I had predicted a pick 6 for him today. That did not quite come to fruition, but somebody was getting a pick because I knew Stafford was going to give us one because he's got that Cutler in him a little bit.
Yeah, and Jalen almost did have that pick
in the first half, right near the end zone.
He played a good game. He had the pass breakup at the end of the game. I thought he played pretty well. The one thing that bothered me about Jalen, bothered me was number 33. Now that should be retired. He should not be number 33 for the Bears. Okay. Tillman deserves that retired, I think.
That's true, but I'm sure Tillman would. I think this guy's going to have that same kind of pedigree of talent. But one play that almost really stuck out was an open field tackle on a tight end on second down, and you would have thought, just a meaningless, but it was a great tackle, and we've seen different guys not be able to make that tackle, and he just chopped him down as a first-day rookie right out the gate, and the next play is a holding call, and then it goes back 10 yards, and before you know it, it's 3rd and 17. They actually gave up the third down. That was when Matt Stafford threw that miracle pass right at the first down marker, and I think it was Marvin Jones that came down with it. But those kind of plays are what impact the game, those little moments. And Jalen Johnson, he did overall had a great game. He's going to get challenged as a rookie. He's going to get challenged overall when Kyle Fuller's on the other side. And so he's going to get a lot of opportunities, and it's only a matter of time before he's finding that pay dirt, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's wearing the same shoulder harness Mitch was wearing last season, right? Am I kind of make believing that? I could have swore he's wearing a shoulder harness as well, right? So to see him make those tackles with the harness on is, well, first of all, I was surprised that he was even wearing a harness because I didn't see anything about that on the injury report. But yeah, no, I'm looking at him now. Yeah, he's definitely wearing a shoulder harness.
I think he's had a few injuries in his career, and that's why he kind of fell in the draft. So that might be just kind of maybe it's a comfort thing for him, just have a little bit extra support on something he had injured in the past.
Could be, but he was tough as nails. I mean, listen, I agree with you, Jake, that 33 means something to me, but then the Bears have so many numbers that are retired already.
Right.
You see 50, you see 99, you see 94, you see all of them out there. You're going to have to give some of these numbers up, but I think he's going to be something special. And by the way, we're talking about narrative changing here. I mean, this draft, how many rookies are making an impact for us? This draft could be something that changes Pace's narrative as well, I think. if these guys continue playing like this.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I think at least the early returns and what you've heard in camp and the way people are producing, all good signs. And I agree, Jalen does seem like he's got that swag, he's got the energy, he's got the talent. I feel good about him.
Absolutely. So why don't we move over to, of course, the biggest play of the game and listen to Matt Nagy's thoughts on the game-winning touchdown to Anthony Miller.
Here at Ford Field, what did you see that on that play from your vantage point, both from Mitch and from Anthony?
Well, what I love about our guys and our team, and me being around more of the offensive guys during the game, is they're coming over to me and they're telling me, I can beat this guy, I can beat that guy. And when you have that input and you have that confidence from your players, you love that as a coach. And so Anthony Miller, Allen Robinson, all these other wide receivers that were over there, they really like their matchups. And then of course you got to make the throw. So I just appreciate their willingness to keep fighting. No one ever had their head down. They didn't care about the score. They just know they wanted an opportunity to get the ball. And then when you get that opportunity, you got to make the most of it. They did that. Mitch made the throws, whatever it was, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But when we needed it most, the guy stepped up. And sometimes that's how you win. And we did that today.
Big throw. I mean, that's what you need to see out of Mitch if he's going to keep this job week to week. And it does seem almost at this point it might be a week to week basis with this guy. He's got to make plays like that, and he did, and good for him.
It's the best throw of his career.
Absolutely.
It's the best throw of his career. I mean, let's not mince words here. I can't think of another throw that, the Allen Robinson.
When you consider the circumstances, the circumstances of the pressure of the moment, yes, it's the Lions, a team that he beats down daily or yearly, I should say. Annually. But when you think about where it was going in the third quarter and knowing what's at stake for his career and all the eyes are on him, he knew what was going on. And for him to turn around and do what he did, he earned some respect from the players in that locker room for that comeback. It'd be interesting if we see any kind of footage to him, getting the team huddle at the end of the breakdown on Club Dub, which I'm assuming he did. But, it's a big moment, and you just, as a Mitch fan, not a truther, someone that's rooting for him, you just hope he takes that and just destroys the Giants and plays 4 quarters of good football, and you try to build off of that momentum. No, if you destroy the Giants, that doesn't mean we have solved all our world's problems with the Bears. They still have to go and then beat the Falcons the next week. But 4 quarters of palatable football might get guys, to maybe cross the picket line on trying to say, hey, let's give this guy a chance to build some momentum. We don't want momentum if it's just going to be salvation in fourth quarter. That's not winning football, but we'll take it for week 1, of course. But now we need to see consistency. That's it. That's what everybody's talking about. Everybody can see that he clearly can make the throws, has all the talent, but it's the consistency. You can't miss the easy tight end pitch to Demetrius Harris and then make the spectacular, because all you're doing is keeping your coaching staff on the edge. And that could be why there's no consistency with the offense. That's what they have to figure out, is how they find consistency, because they obviously can make plays. How do they find consistency?
I have a non-conventional thought here. I don't care if he makes the layups. If he can make the big plays, that's fine. We have enough playmakers here. You're not going to get a perfect product with Mitch, ever. The accuracy is always going to be an issue. Those upper body mechanics are completely broken. They're broken in this game as well. It's not going to be perfect. But if he can make the big throws, and that's what's always been missing. I think the consensus is he's going to hit the layups. And yeah, sure, you'd like to see that. But Watson doesn't hit the layups. Mahomes doesn't hit the layups. Lamar Jackson doesn't always hit the layups. They make the big plays. And that's what happens in football. I think that's what modern football is. You hang around and you make some big shots here and there. And, he did that in the fourth quarter. Didn't do that in the first 3.
It's almost like baseball nowadays. It's either a walk or a home run.
It's a home run game. I don't know if you're following this Cardinals game, which is absolutely insane. With
how about the Cubbies? They got a no-hitter today.
Oh, yeah, no hitter today. But it's like
Alec Mills.
It's like I'm watching Kyler Murray plays like dog poop for huge chunks of the game, but then goes on a 22-yard incredible scamper, make some insane throws to DeAndre Hopkins. I feel that's what the league is now. You know, I mean, Deshaun Watson is no player better epitomizes this than Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is not a perfect player, but God, he hits these big shots. And I think that's if Mitch can do that, you know, look out, you know.
And they're going to have that opportunity because they've now established a run game. And you can play off the run game. And you heard Matt Nagy talk about how the play action was really working for Mitch. I believe we have a clip where he references that and talks a little bit at length of how that was working for them. I'm not sure. Maybe not.
I don't know.
We read
what was that one? I like out one.
Reaction at how the O-line played, and then what you thought of the running game. It looked like that was a clear emphasis, something you wanted to get to early, and you stuck with it.
Yeah, Brad. No, I appreciate you bringing out that in regards to the O-lineman because sometimes they never get their credit, and I thought they did a really, really good job establishing that run. Early on, especially, there were some nice runs, 6, 7, 8-yard runs. We stayed patient with that. You know, in the end, it looks like it was about 4.7 yards per rush, which you love that in this league. That just helps you be able to stay out of those 3rd and long. So that's the part we got to go back and say, okay, why were we in more of those 3rd and 7 pluses situationally throughout? But they did a really good job. With that, I thought Coach Juan and Coach Donnie, their communication too, down on the sideline, talking through things that we like and don't like, protection-wise, run game-wise. That's what it's all about. And credit to the running backs, Coach Charles London. So, you know, that's all a part of this.
Yeah, the run. I mean, the O-line did a great job. I was really happy to see that. I was great. It was great to see Ifedi in there really moving some guys and then being able to run the ball. Juan Castillo. Hopefully that is a great addition for us. And as so far as paying early dividends, granted, whatever Detroit's level of professionalism might be different than whoever we're playing later down the line, but it was good to see, especially for the first game when guys can't have a little rust on them and no preseason, anything like that. So it's fair to give them a little break here and there. But yeah, it was really good to see.
To piggyback off it, just to give a back-to-back, Samir, we'll also hear Mitch Trubisky's thoughts on it, and then we'll let you react to that, Samir.
Going well, and what was it like to watch them get in the rhythm today?
It was awesome. I think it helps the big boys up front. They love coming off the football and opening up run lanes for our running backs, and then I think it settles our running backs in as well. And then we just want to keep teams off balance, and that comes for us being in balance and then never knowing what's going to come next. So hitting them with the pass, hitting them with the play action, hitting them with naked screens, the runs. I think when you're a balanced offense, everything just starts to open up, and the O-line did a great job creating lanes for the running backs to run, and it was creating rhythm for our offense. We just got to get in the first half, be a little bit better on 3rd downs, and that's on me to do that. So we just got to keep grinding, keep getting better. But I definitely love to see the run game going. Running backs running hard, and the O-line just busting their tails up front. They played a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Listen, I think 14 of the first 37 plays here, if I'm looking at the stats correctly, were either in 12, 13, or 21 personnels, which is incredible, which we didn't do last year. That's 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, a.k.a. the I formation. And it worked. And there were so many plays. I don't have a play action count, but it felt like we were doing so much play action. You can do that when you're running for 5.3 yards a pop, as we were doing. And that does open up a lot of stuff for the offense. And I think it makes it easier for Mitch, right? When the kind of fear with Mitch is that you don't want Mitch to take his eyes off the field. But when he's taking his eyes off the field and he's looking up and the first guy that he's throwing to is wide open, do it and do it often. And I think that's and Jake, you're right. The Lions are the Lions. That's why I think in Chicagoland people are going to be a little hesitant. But if they can do that, if that's a formula for success and sustained success, I think.
Well, the good thing about the Bears' schedule this year, it kind of lines up nicely for them to have a first comfortable 4 games. I know next week they get the Giants. I can't recall who the next 2 opponents are after that. Falcons. So you get the opportunity to grow almost as if you have some easier opponents. I mean, you could be playing the Ravens or
that's why it was
God knows
crucial
who.
as a truther. That's why it was crucial for my guy to get the nod, because I foresaw this playing out as, yeah, Foles or Trubisky. You knew it was going to be a close game, and I'm sitting there like, well, if Foles gets in there, I'm thinking about, well, Mitch might get back in if Foles gets injured, and things like that. You're thinking about how the whole season will play out, and you're thinking about all the different scenarios that play out in your mind. And you also consider, well, what if Foles can't win games? But when you looked at the beginning of the schedule, it was clear whoever won the job was going to get some easy teams to start. And as long as they could muster a win out in week 1 in the most unpredictable week of the first 4 games in the schedule, in my opinion, because now we get some clarity. We know a little bit more about this team, a lot more about this team as fans. The coaching staff might know plenty that we didn't know, but they probably learned a lot more about this team today than they did before the game was played. So now we go into a home game against the Giants, a team that they handled decently well. I'm not sure what the Giants look like this year, so I'm not going to over speak here because I'm going to wait and see how they look this week and break down my film. But guess what? I feel like the Bears have a decided advantage next week going into the game against the New York Giants. And that means that they could go to 2-0. And this just only extends Mitch's leash further and further. I had him at a 2-game leash. Well, with each win he gets, that leash gets longer and longer. And then before you know it, you're in a playoff race. And now no one's talking about leash. They're talking about beating the next team on your schedule, because all you're worried about is making the playoffs. Because, hey, when you make it, anybody can win. Nick Foles, our backup quarterback, is a perfect example of that. And so that's what we're looking for here in Chicago, is just trying to catch lightning in a bottle. No one's expecting to be the well-oiled machine that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Those dreams are done. Now we're just looking to scratch some wins together, build some momentum. They get to 3-1. God forbid 4-0. I mean, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but but seriously though, what is the record? What is the percentage of teams they used to say that start 2-0 to make the playoffs? I know it's a high percentage. So you're starting to get exactly. 70%. You're getting to that point, and they're all winnable games. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying you also add in the fact that there's an additional team from each conference that makes the playoffs. As a fan, I just want my team to have a chance. I know sure. I want to be the Chiefs. I want to be the Patriots, but that's a dream. What I know could possibly happen is they could catch lightning in a bottle. So that's all I'm looking for here. Get some momentum, build some wins off these little lesser teams, and then hopefully Mitch, big boy Mitch that we saw in the fourth quarter, is ready to show out for 4 quarters when we get to the middle of the season.
Big boy Mitch.
That's what we saw.
We'd have a shirt made. Big boy.
Well, we saw it in you saw it in the Bears promo video. Yeah, how about this little graphic that Jake threw together?
On Twitter. That's trending on Twitter. Money Mitch, yeah, the Money Mitch hashtag.
Well, and then they suggested for Darnell Mooney, Cash Mooney. So
that's a good one.
I did see that. That was pretty solid.
But then I see some T-shirts gonna get sold on Etsy soon. I think Mooney time and
sure.
Money Mitch. Just Greg, I want to say though, the defense is something that does concern me, especially when Eddie Goldman went out. People were like, "Oh, he only plays half the snaps," but he plays on first and second down, and he's there to stop the run. And we're playing Saquon Barkley next week. That line is a little bit better than it was last year. Not much better, but it's a little bit better. Again, I have no way of telling. It's just, who they brought in and all that kind of stuff. But there's something about the kind of spine of our defense that concerns me. Akeem Hicks is a great 3-4 end where he can come after the quarterback or really be disruptive. But, as a pure defensive tackle, there's a lot of stuff that, he does that sometimes doesn't make me totally thrilled. And the inside linebacker play, we talked about Roquan earlier, Danny Trevathan. I love Danny T. I love that guy. He's a great leader, the Predator. I love him. But, man, he looks slow. It's one thing to get beaten by a receiver, but to get beat by a tight end like T.J. Hawkinson, who's like 270 pounds, it's concerning. And
I'm concerned with Akeem Hicks. Somebody referenced that his snap count might have been a little lower. Limited today, and that his how he makes it through a season is huge for this defense. You saw last year when he went out with the elbow injury in London, literally immediately how fast that defense changed. And as you mentioned, you don't have Eddie Goldman for the year. He cannot come back. He chose to stay off because of the COVID. And it's a serious issue. You've got some guys in there that need to step up. John Jenkins and Bilal Nichols. A lot of people were hyping up Bilal's off season. You got Roy Robertson Harris. I mean, they stopped the run when they had to at the end of the game. So I'll give them that. And that was when they needed to. The Lions were making me laugh at the end of the game because their whole approach was hilarious. They were begging the Bears to come back. And then that final throw to Stafford. I honestly laughed. I literally yelled out laughing. It was the funniest throw.
If you're Matthew Stafford, are you thinking, okay, how much money do I have in the bank account and how much money do I have to pay to get the hell out of this team? Because, I mean, just ridiculous. That whole organization has failed that guy. And, yeah, I know he's got a bit of Cutler in him, but he's a good quarterback, and good quarterbacks shouldn't be in this position. But I have a question to ask you, both of you and Jake. If DeAndre Swift makes that catch at the end of the fourth, does anything change for you?
We actually were talking
That's what
about
I was saying that earlier. I said I honestly think if DeAndre Swift makes that catch, we're not talking about even Mitch Trubisky the same way as we are right now. I mean, granted, he came back and played really well, but you're going to be more critical of the first three quarters.
See, but I did put a poll out there. I did put a poll out there, though, that asked prior to the drop, would you still have him as the starter next week? And 80% had it, yes. And it surprised me. But I think at that point he had 3 touchdowns and no picks. How are you going to bench him next week if Swift makes that catch?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying
sorry.
you bench him. I'm saying I just think the conversation's a little bit different than it is right now. Just because I think it's easier to say to chalk it up to rust because they didn't have preseason. It's easier to see that and then see what he did in the fourth quarter and say, okay, well, I feel okay about that, as it is if maybe the game is lost. I just think Bears fans are very peculiar about the way they handle things, and they feel a lot better 1-0 than they do 0-1. Obviously,
winning is the cure all day long. They win game. None of this matters.
I think the big thing, I mean, talking about rust, is we're hoping, like you said, Samir, that it is rust with the defense because they were getting manhandled on the line of scrimmage. And at one point I had to check if Akeem Hicks was even playing in the damn game. Like, I was watching to see how much he was actually on the field because I didn't hear him once until he sacked Stafford later in the game. So it is concerning. It's very concerning.
I think that Waddle says that I think holds very true, and we saw this in 2018, and we haven't really since, is this team needs to get off to an early lead for this defense to really be the great defense that we saw. And you saw in 2018 them getting out to early leads consistently. And since then, they haven't figured out their offense until the third quarter of most games. And by then they're scratching and clawing. They're outside of their game plan because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Down 3 score, you're throwing away whatever you planned for, and you're just scrapping for a win. They got to get out to early leads. And then this defense, I think, will be more recognizable. Last year, there was this. We're seeing the same thing we saw last year. Call it demoralization or whatever, or a war of attrition, and they're just out there too much. But if this team gets out to an early lead, then the other team can't run the ball and do their game plan as much, and then Mac can pin his ears back and get after the quarterback.
They play a really high-energy style, our defense. So it's like, even when we don't have, even though we're winning the time of possession battle, they get fatigued really early because they're just playing a high energy style. They don't play as much. They play a really physical zone on the outside, and then on the line of scrimmage, I mean, Mac is going hard every single time. That's just going to wear you down over time, I think. So I agree with you, Greg, completely. You have to score early here, and I'm hoping some of the good
vibes. That's on Matt Nagy. to do that.
You think so? You think
Yes.
so? I think
Every year now, they come out of every year. Every year this team comes out week one unprepared. Every year they come out of the bye week unprepared. Every year they come off the Thanksgiving Thursday, and then 10 days later they come unprepared. Every time they have an extended period off, they look off. Every time.
I'm not going to call them unprepared. I think today what's held them back from points was Mitchell Trubisky. I think that is absolutely the fact, and not Matt Nagy in that regard. I think he left way too much on the field. And I mean, I wrote down we had 12 total drives in the game. And I swear to you, at least 6 of those drives, I wrote a really bad throw that resulted in something horrendous. So that you cannot have that. You only get so many opportunities, and that don't fly.
But Jake, even the completions, a lot of them were just bad. I mean, like, how many times do you need to see Allen Robinson go behind and kind of do like a stop while he's going full speed, come from behind, catch the ball, or Allen Robinson or Anthony Miller, outstretch his arms to bring it in. Like you have so many examples Tariq Cohen's another one.
That throw in the flat that Tariq saved him on.
It's just these are you can't live this way forever. But I go to the Bears game with a pudgy guy. He's lost a lot of weight recently, but he told me something, and I totally believe it. Coach is coach, but players got to execute. Greg, you might know this guy. He's a big Devin Hester fan. I think you might have heard of this guy before, right? But it's execution. It comes down to execute. All these schemes, they work if you execute. You can run a jet sweep. The Chiefs do it all the time. If you execute, it looks great. If you don't execute, it looks bad. And I think to me, and I agree with you completely, Jake, and you go back to week 1 last year against the Packers, same thing. Those guys were open. He had time. You got to hit those passes. Very simple, and I think that's it for me.
And as you mentioned, the thing that maybe keeps you from being overly optimistic was the adjustment that the Bears made at the end that the Lions didn't notice to make, where you mentioned the zone to man. And Mitchell talked about that a little bit, and there's actually a clip where
they're throwing some zone concepts at you guys that you maybe didn't expect, but then later on they switched to playing a little bit more man. Did that also help you guys get in the rhythm a bit, just going against a defense you have beat pretty significantly and consistently?
Yeah, I think they were doing a good job mixing up, especially in the first half. And then when it got down to the wire, I mean, they're gonna play what they trust most, and that was man for them, and we knew that. So it was all about winning our one-on-one matchups. The O-line did a great job winning their one-on-one matchups up front, giving me time, and the playmakers made plays down the stretch. But I also thought they did a great job mixing in zone in the first half, doing a couple confusing looks. But you're always going to have that in the first game. So we just got to continue to get better on offense and get ready for next week and try to find those things in film study. But that's always going to happen. You're always going to have some unscattered looks, but we just got to trust our eyes, go out there and play as a unit. And we did a lot better job that second half.
Well, this is what I was saying. I mean, in the fourth quarter especially, they went to cover 3 man, which is what they always play before. And cover 3 man, basically, for all you football nerds, is basically you're giving up all the underneath space. You're kind of trying to make a little line across the top of the field, and you're just playing soft. And that's what they did. That's what they always play. That's the way the Patriots play. But you need talent to make those plays, to play that kind of defense, like the Seahawks or the Patriots. And the Lions don't have talent like that. So, yeah, he burned them to a crisp after that. If you go to Lions Twitter, people are calling for Matt Patricia's head. Why would you make that switch? Just keep doing what you were doing in the first 3 quarters, and you would have won that game. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on jumping aboard the Mitch thing here, because it's just the Lions. What were they thinking? Like, I don't know what they were thinking in terms of defense. Jake, I don't know what
I mean
about that, but that's what I saw.
I don't know. I wanted
2 years in a row, same thing.
To talk on Patricia for another minute, making the decision to go for that long field goal really put the Bears in great field position. And and got a touchdown off of that position.
Yeah.
So that was a big blunder too. And so I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. So one thing I was thinking about though, that I just kind of thought about as I saw him on the sidelines, was Chase Daniel is QB number 2 for Detroit. And with Chase Daniel there, what sort of because the Bears, they're not changing from what they did last year to this year. I mean, granted, they might be introducing some new things that they like into the offense, what have you, but they do what they do. Chase Daniels knows what they does. He ran scout team against these guys all the time. So what would you think Chase Daniel could have lent the Lions this week that really kind of helped them against this defense and offense for that matter?
Well, I mean, I think he told them have Mitch look at zones with weak side zone blitzes or predator lurks and robber looks from the safety, because he has difficulty tracking those, and that's what happened in the first 3 quarters. And then for some reason in the fourth quarter they went back to that cover 3 man defense. I don't know why he did that. It's just bizarre. Oh, Chubb's 82, bringing the heat. I love.
You want to read it? You want to read it?
Yeah.
Samir, our guy Chubb's 82 has been firing at you in the chat. He believes you are a hater, and he believes that you only look at Mitch's faults and you look at nothing else. You don't see the wrong routes. You don't see the drop passes. You don't see the questionable play calls. All you see, it's not verbatim. I'm paraphrasing what's happening in the chat.
I don't think I want to make a call on what the wrong route was without fully knowing.
I think maybe he's referring possibly to the Anthony Miller one where he was streaking. It was early in the first quarter, and he was going to the end zone, and Anthony was turned one way, and Mitch threw it to the left corner of the end zone. It looked like they weren't on the same page, but for us to say whose fault that was, it was kind of a throwaway ball to begin with. Anyway, it was 3rd down, and they settled for the field goal yet again. It was right after the Jimmy Graham drop, I believe, but I'm not sure.
No, yeah, I mean, that ball was not catchable.
So, but no, to respond to Chubbs, and because he really wants to know, because me and you, we go through this, Samir. You have a very critical eye. I'm the truther. You're the analytical hater.
He sounds like you. Chubb sounds like things you've said.
So yes, so I would like you to respond to Chubbs because he's really, really fired up with your analysis today.
First thing, I like Chubbs. I've had some interactions with him on Twitter where we've disagreed on things. Listen, I cannot evaluate Mitchell Trubisky on a play-by-play basis. Game in this game. Listen. In the fourth quarter, the second, and I said this at the top of the show. Mitch in that second half of the fourth quarter was fantastic. He was Patrick Mahomes. I totally agree with that. And I think I also said that I don't care about Mitch missing the layups. I want Mitch to make the big plays. And he did that in this game. However, that being said, I've seen Mitch play 40 games, 1,500 dropbacks. I cannot divorce those ideas from what I saw today. Like, it's unfair, Chubbs. I totally agree. And you're totally right to say, hey, you're being unfair. I will admit that I'm being unfair. If Nick Foles had the same exact game that Mitch had today, I would say Nick Foles, hey, we might want to give him a look at, cutting Mitch or trading Mitch and see if we can get a draft pick, whatever. We got our guy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's unfair. It's not, in my mind, it's logical, but I completely understand why it's not in other people's. For Mitch, to me, I do have real baggage with this guy. I mean, it's not something I'm going to hide or shy away from. He has burned me for 3 years. I was with this guy in 2017.
Oh, you were just fine in 2018. We had a great time. I remember specifically.
I told you in 2018 after that Arizona game, I thought I was like, this is not a franchise quarterback, and I need to see things change. Because my view is always the same, and I do this with every player. Your rookie season, I want to see what you're good at and what you're not good at. Your second season, I want to see if you've improved on the things that you weren't good at. I have not seen that from Mitch. I want to see that from Mitch. Chubbs, I'm 40 years old. Okay, and guessing by your handle, you're 2 years younger than me. The best Bears quarterback I've probably seen in my adult lifetime is probably Mitch Trubisky, which is completely crazy because he's not even a top 15 quarterback. I mean, who are we going to take him over? Jim Miller, Eric Kramer?
Well, yeah, I think he needs 3,000 yards.
Cutler?
He needs 3,000
I mean,
yards, 3,014 yards or something like that to be third all time for the Bears in their history. Like that's absurd. We've been cursed.
I mean, Mitch to me is the best Bears quarterback of this century. I think he's better than Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler was crazy and a jerk, and he had all the talent in the world. He just didn't want to do the right things. I think Mitch is better, but that doesn't mean that I think he's worth hanging on to. And that's just the reality of the situation. I want to be right.
Sure.
Chubbs, I want you to be right, Chubbs. I want Chubbs to be right.
Well, I definitely want
I don't see
that. Yeah.
I definitely want to be right, and I want to keep Mitch around.
I don't think any of those things necessarily have to do with today, though, either. I mean, I think you can watch that game objectively without any previous bias into Mitch. Watch the entire thing start to finish and see where he's missing these throws and where what's going wrong, and not just hate on him because you've watched him, or any of us have watched him since he got here. You know what I mean? It was objectively just not what we needed to see up until the fourth quarter when he turned it on and won the game. I mean, one of my biggest things about Mitch is he rarely puts the team on his back and wins one like you see so many good quarterbacks do. And I felt like he did that today. I mean, Anthony Miller made some outstanding catches. A-Rob made some outstanding catches. But I felt like Mitch put the team on his back in the fourth quarter, and he won the damn game. So I'm, good for him. He deserves that.
To get yourself ready for this season, and then this game does not start how you wish it would have started, but you're able to lead the team to a win in the fourth quarter. How were you feeling? What were you thinking mentally late in that game? And what do you think for you a win like this does, and the way that you were able to lead it and make it happen?
Yeah, for sure. First half didn't go how I wanted, how our offense wanted. We knew we got to be better on third down earlier in the game, and especially in the red zone. But I think what really helped me first half to second half was when you start to get in a rhythm, you start to not think. So just getting out of your own head, not thinking about anything else except the next play. And that's what we did as a unit, I thought. And myself. So I was just going out there and playing, letting the game come to me, seeing the defense, going through reads, and taking what they gave us. So we just had a mentality on the sidelines. We got together as offense, and we knew we weren't out of it once we were down by 17. We just one play at a time. Like, we don't have to do anything crazy. We're still in it. Let's stick to what we do. Let's find completions. Let's just go down there, play our game, but take it one play at a time. And I think when we started getting to a rhythm, you start to not think and just play fast. And I think that's when things started to roll for us in the second half.
Classic Mitch there. He's always very consistent in his press conferences every time.
No, that's why it drove me nuts last year when people started picking him apart. That's what people drove me crazy when they started picking him apart last year in his press conference. I'm like, this is the same stuff he's been saying since the day he showed up. What is everybody surprised about?
Yeah, he's pretty much the same. He's like a robot.
Every time I watch those press conferences, it's like, I would like that guy to date my sister, but I don't know if I'd like to hang out with him or have a beer with him because he just seems so robotic and kind of boring.
I bet you he's much more laid back behind the scenes. He does it as doing the corporate quarterback thing. He reminds
me of our good friend, shout out if you're listening, Kevin Devine. He reminds me of Kevin very much in his approach to how he communicates. But he's consistent. He's consistent in the way he talks in press conferences, not so much on the field, but he's always consistent when he talks.
Sure. So Samir, final thoughts on what you saw today. We've been having some fun, but we don't want to go too long, and we want to get back to our beautiful families and
watch some Sunday Night Football.
Watch some Sunday Night Football, which is just about to kick off. So why don't you give us your final thoughts, Samir from Bears Bonanza, a great podcast and a great buddy of mine. We've gone to a few games and had some drinks and had some fun. And this year, this is how we're going to have fun and enjoy the games together is on fun shows like this. So I want to hear your final thoughts with what you saw from the Bears and their heroic win in Detroit.
Well, we still might be able to go to a game or two, Greg. I think
Fingers crossed.
said that. Yeah, fingers crossed. So it's going to be expensive, though. It's going to be like $400 ticket. So start saving your money. Yeah, I don't know what to feel about this game. I feel happy because we got the win, and I think there's a lot of things to be really excited about. But I like things, and I've told you this, Greg, many times. I like to do things that are expected. I like planning my life around things that are expected. And when I start seeing unexpected things, it makes me uncomfortable. And right now, today, I feel really uncomfortable because I don't know what I feel I haven't learned a lot about this team after week one. And I really want to. I'm very cautiously optimistic. But maybe that's just me trying not to get my heart broken by this team, but that's broken my heart many times.
That is the
so that's my
cynic
final
in you.
thoughts.
100%. It's a defense mechanism, and
sure.
you're everybody calls it. There's hedging as a cynic, and there's also hedging as someone that's positive. All you have to do is go through my Twitter timeline today during the game, and you'll see examples of that all day long. It's just a way to make yourself feel better, but we all know. At the end of the day, we're just going to stress out no matter how we are not going to get 48-0 drubbing next week where the Bears just win, relaxing and we just get to celebrate and fourth quarter is just kind of the backups are in. We don't get that. We get what we saw today and we'll get that for 16 games and you will eat it and you will like it.
Let's just hope that anything that we're concerned about, we can chalk it up to rust. Let's just hope that's the case.
I'll chalk it up to wherever I got to chalk it up.
If we see Bears, if we see the 3 quarters of Bears football we saw today,
well, don't forget,
consistently we're in trouble.
They started 3-1 last year, and that was the most pitiful team. I don't want to say they were the most pitiful, but they just didn't meet the bar of expectations in a way that a team hasn't since maybe 2007, the year after the Super Bowl. So it was extremely disappointing. I don't want to say they were the most pitiful. That's probably going a bit too far, but you just got to see 3-1 still won't have guys convinced, even maybe me, because as I said, we started 3-1 last year. This team's got a long way to go. But today was the step in the right direction. They're very fortunate. But in football, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I will say this quote a million times when I talk about football. The difference between a 10-6 team and a 6-10 team is about 5 plays. And Herm Edwards said that, and it rings true every single year. And every single year, a bad team, 5 bad teams become playoff teams. And every single year, teams that start 2-0 make the playoffs at a high percentage clip. So that's all I'm worried about. It's a numbers game. And you know what? Winning a Super Bowl, just like the Cubbies, it's a law of averages. So I'm just waiting our turn. I'm just waiting for our turn.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of those of the 5 bad plays you're talking about when it comes to the Lions, that might have been one for them and a good one for us. So
sure, hey, you can take it.
Any way we can get them, we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
Samir, we really appreciate you coming on for our first ever post-game reaction. We're going to continue to try to build this show. It took us a month to build the Friday night show. So this was kind of thrown together. So we appreciate your patience. We were trying to cut some clips and maybe I'll do a better job of, I literally cut like 20 clips, but we would be here till 11 o'clock at night. And then, we'd be upsetting the apple cart at our houses. So we don't need to be here talking Bears all night. We've got all week to react to what we just saw and then move on to Bears Giants. And we'll be back Friday night, of course, at Braxton Stands. But Samir, you knocked it out of the park.
Thank
you. You are our analytical genius. We will always call on you to give us that analytical perspective. Not a hater, Chubbs. Not a hater. Samir's
realist. We got to be realistic here. We can't just be.
He's realistic. I like to call it level-headed. He's balanced. Realist, I never like truth being associated with realist. It's like one of those things, like it's a cop-out. Just because I'm positive, that doesn't make me realistic. That's not how it works. Positive
he's taking it personally. I didn't mean that.
No,
it's not. It's not.
Black does this all the time. Chris Black does this all the time.
I triggered him. Look at him. He was about to wrap it up, and now it's over.
Shut up. He says that Dan Weeder is a realistic writer, and then other guys, I hate that. No. Some people, all right, I'll wrap it up, yo. Samir, we love you. Jake got me all fired up with that Samir, that realistic.
All I got to say is realist, and he just went off.
I just popped off that training camp talk.
That's
that quarterback competition talk just set me off. So, Samir, again, we're going to bring you on here many times as we go forward, and we appreciate you bringing balance to Brags in the Stands, because if you weren't here, Jake would just be fighting off the meatball that is Greg Braggs, and that's a big meatball.
It's nice to have someone on my side.
It's a big meatball to take
I'm big into logic, and
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I attempted to blame the whole first half on Nagy, and you guys wouldn't let me, but I will try again next week. So again, Samir from Bears Bonanza, make sure you guys follow him over there. We had your handle listed underneath your name that our good man Jake
here put together a graphic.
Let's get it again so I can read it at Samir5580. Make sure you follow him. He's a great Bears follower and is a great conversationalist. So if you ever want to engage in conversation, Samir is always there for that smoke. So go ahead, Chubbs, fire away. He'll be waiting for you. And again, Samir, we'll see you on Brags in the Stands very shortly. And we appreciate you coming on for the first ever post-game show. So you're the man, Samir. Way to knock it out of the park.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Take care.
We'll catch up. Man. All right, JV.
All right. That was solid.
Yeah, that was solid. I think we should just wrap it with two more clips, and then we're going to call it a night, okay? Because I want to play.
Why isn't this working? Oh, there it goes. Okay.
I want to play what Mitchell Trubisky and Matt Nagy both think what this win means for the Bears, and then we will call it a night.
Sure.
Before about you kind of taking charge of your own story, writing your own story, to use his words. What do you think this game, the slow start, the big finish, kind of does for you in that sense? Maybe in another way of like connecting with him again this season.
For me, it's just one game at a time. I mean, this is only one game. I got to continue to stay focused, stay in this mental space that I'm in, and just keep getting after it every single week. I think if you're staying in the moment, staying present, and being with my teammates is what's.
Mitch, can you give us?
All right, fair enough. That seemed to cut off at the end there, but hey, that's we hear. That's how he rolls.
That's what I do. And then my final clip
not you, Mitch.
Is. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's my problem. Here's my problem with the video clips, and we got to get this right. Is for whatever reason when we play them, it lags on my end, so I don't really see the clip as you're seeing it. I can see that you're seeing it, but I can't. I've already seen the clip because I clipped them myself before we started the show, so I know what he said. Paraphrasing, but I wish I got to get my internet right. Something's going on with that.
It could not be your fault. It is what it is, man.
Just peeling behind the curtain for those of you still tuning in here for the final moments of Brags in the Stands and Matt Nagy's final thoughts on what this win means for the Chicago Bears, and then we're going to call it a night.
The story and producing something really kind of cool. I know that you got to go through the film with him. There's a lot to really dissect, but in the moment, leaving the field after this win, what could this win mean for him?
Well, I think it's important to understand that for all of us, these type of wins are the ones you remember, and they can really help you get the season going the right way. You look at the other end of it. If you don't get this win, what do we all do, right? We dwell on what happened in the first quarter, the second quarter, and really part of the third. Instead, this win shows us a couple things. It shows that we can handle adversity as a team. It shows that we stick together, which we've already checked that one off. We did that last year. But it also shows that there's some things that we need to get better at. So we're not going to let this win deodorize any of the stuff on offense, defense, or special teams that wasn't good. That's why we have our good, bad, and ugly video clip that we do on Tuesday morning that we'll show, and then we'll get better from it. But we're 1-0 right now. We appreciate that. We know that we got a lot more to go, but it's hard to win in this league. So to be able to win right now, it just really helps you for the future.
Love that use of deodorize. That's solid. I like how he threw that one in there. It's
like
victory. Very good. Yeah. So hey,
it smells like victory.
I'm proud of these guys. They came back, they fought, they won the game when it looked like the odds were the odds weren't in their favor. So I'm proud of them. They came back and won, and I'm hoping that this does galvanize them and they're ready to come back and put a hurt on the Giants.
And I just think this team has a much more mature approach to what they're trying to get accomplished this season. Yes, they have flaws, but last year they came in with so much hype, so much expectation, and sometimes that can overwhelm a team that is not ready for it. And you'll see it in every sport in this city. I think the Sox even this year kind of felt that for a minute with, over expectation before they're ready to take their stride, and now they're hitting it. Well, the Bears are sitting here this year as opposed to last year with no hype, and they win a game in heroic fashion. The first thing I tweeted is, wow, hashtag no hype, because I'm not, okay, we beat them, on to the Giants. And you hear Matt Nagy say, we're going to enjoy this for a minute. And then on Tuesday, we're doing the good, the bad, the ugly film review, which I love as a new implemented thing for Matt Nagy. And yes, maybe that is something he should have been doing a long time ago, holding his players accountable in the film room. You would think that that's something every coach is doing, but apparently Matt Nagy had to learn that trait, and now they're doing the good, the bad, the ugly on Tuesdays, and I wish I could sit in on those because it sounds like the players enjoy that kind of accountability, and that's the kind of mindset a winning football team is going to have. Winning a game like this doesn't get you anywhere. Getting back to the grindstone, looking at your flaws, like Samir was saying, looking at what you were bad at and improving off of those things. Yes, you did good things, but you need to now improve off of the things you didn't do good at. And that includes getting off the bus, playing faster, scoring more points. And yes, that is obviously easier said than done, but you see they're capable of it. And it's time to put that together in the first quarter so you can give this defense an opportunity to get some things done. But we will take it. I think this was a very successful first post-game show. We had a lot of fun. We tried to cover as much as we could, did a lot of reaction, and that's great. That's what this is going to be all about is, the fans' reaction. We are not analysts. We are always going to try to bring on people that are analysts or podcasters or fans, but all opinions are welcome here.
I don't know what I'm talking about at any given time. I'm just here talking.
Sometimes I'll just say a sentence and I don't even know how it's going to finish. And that's normally how I finish. Yes, I'm very Michael Scott.
I don't believe that.
Yes, I am very Michael Scott. There's no question about that.
One thing I would say, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw the Bears bringing in some D tackles this week, if there's somebody that they're interested in. I know that Snacks Harrison had a comment about that somewhere in the Twitterverse that the Bears might have been interested in him at one point. I wouldn't be surprised to see him bring somebody in the way that the run game kind of chewed him up today.
Sure. And then not to get too off the rails before we finally wrap this up, but I did get a text from Shane. He sent me a picture of Allen Robinson liked someone's tweet saying that on the great catch Allen had during the game that he's going to send that tape to the next team he plays for, and Allen liked it. So that's concerning, and the Bears are treading on thin ice with their best wide receiver, and that is probably not something you want to be doing, but that's the price of playing poker in the NFL, unfortunately. And
I was thinking about that during the game a little bit. They have loaded up on receivers. They got Mooney. I think
Ridley was
inactive.
And we've heard nothing but great things about
him.
Right,
but I hope that in Pace's mind, he's not thinking that he can afford to lose a guy like that and then makes another mistake like he did. Not saying that releasing Marshall was a mistake, but thinking that you had to go out and draft a Kevin White that high in the draft was a mistake in my regard. And regardless of his production, I just think that was a bit of a reach. So I hope that they just do what's right and lock this guy up. He deserves it. He's been a good Bear. He wants to be a Bear for life. Just do it. Don't be stupid.
You're a good Bear.
You're a good Bear.
You're a good Bear, Allen. Good Bear. That's what we need. Good Bears on this team, and good Bears on Sunday today. Not bad Bears. They find the way to win in dramatic fashion, in typical Chicago Bears fashion.
I got the Bears sound effect.
Oh, that sounded like Don the Bear Man. I was hanging out with him earlier. And on Friday, on Brags in the Stands, I'll show you some of those pictures and some of the videos of the tailgate that I stopped at before pregame setup at the Chicago Bears Tailgating Club. Got to hang out with two of the most prestigious Bears fans on this earth. And we're going to bring one of them on for Brags in the Stands, hopefully on Friday night. We're trying to lock that into place. But this Bears fan hasn't missed a home game since 1981. And his name is Paul the Road Warrior, and he's one of the greatest Bears fans alive. And unfortunately, next week, he's not going to be able to go, but the streak doesn't mean it's ended. So I want to bring him on Friday to talk about his experiences and his story. But a lot of fun at the tailgate. Shout out to Chicago Bears Tailgating Club and my guys, Matt and Ken, for getting inducted into the Tailgaters Hall of Fame. So we'll talk about that on Friday. Again, we got some other fun guests in mind. So make sure you tune in Friday night, 7 p.m. Central. We appreciate you joining us here for the first ever Bears post-game show. We got to react Bears to a Bears win, a very thrilling win, and we'll take that over a demoralizing loss any day of the week. Had a lot of fun with you here, Jake. Thank you for throwing it all together and doing the little graphics and doing what we need to do, and your patience with me because
all right,
you know me.
I got the song going.
Oh yeah, you know how I go. So yeah, I do
the
hear
exit
it.
song.
So again, tune in Friday night. A lot of fun. Thank you for coming in the chat. Thank you to FanBags for your sponsorship. We'll see you Friday, and always bear down, Bears win.